You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. Well, this is our last show before we go on summer hiatus. I'll say more about that at the end of the program, but we wanted to send us off into the summer with a real bang. And wow, my two guests, each of them emits enough energy to power a city. So you can imagine the effect of them on the same program. But before we do any of that, we need to go inside the headlines. All domestic news today, except for Russia, but that's starting to feel sadly domestic. Let's start with praise for three women, Republican Senators Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Shelley Moore Capetto of West Virginia, who led the way in declaring that they would not vote to repeal Obamacare, the ACA, without a replacement. But let's carefully qualify that praise in case Majority Leader McConnell twists their arms with his further machinations. Betsy DeVos, masquerading as Education Secretary, intends to reevaluate the Obama administration's campus rape policies that may have, quote, deprived accused male students of their rights, close quote. Furthermore, her department's under fire for comments made by Candace Jackson, who leads its Office for Civil Rights. Jackson said in an interview with the New York Times that 90% of sexual assault accusations on campus fall into the category of, quote, we were both drunk, we broke up, and 6 months later I found myself under a Title IX investigation because she just decided that our last sleeping together was not quite right, period, close quote. Jackson later apologized, calling her own remarks flippant. But Fatima Goss-Graves, president of the National Women's Law Center, noted that those remarks are now out there, and the Department of Education needs to undo that damage by countering those myths about rape. Graves added, DeVos has to reject the idea that rape is just regretted sex, and that most women lie. Close quote. Trump apologists keep repeating that the infamous Donald Jr. meeting with a Russian cast of thousands was really just about the innocent topic of adoption, and Donald Sr. now claims that adoption is what he was chatting about for an hour with Putin in a second unacknowledged dinner meeting during the G20. So, in case anybody is still confused about what adoption really means as a topic of conversation with the Russians these days, let's clear that up. Leverage is what connects adoption to the one topic Putin cares about, the lifting of sanctions. The context is the Magnitsky Act, a 2012 American law that freezes all assets held in the U.S. by Russian officials who are responsible for human rights abuses and bars them from receiving American visas. It was named after Sergei Magnitsky, a young Russian lawyer murdered while held in pretrial detention after he'd exposed a $230 million tax theft scam by Russian officials. The passage of this act, in addition to sanctions imposed by the United States after Putin's invasion of Crimea and ongoing attempted annexation of Ukraine, infuriated Putin. Revoking the Magnitsky Act became his priority, and since he knew that Russian children were adopted by American families more than from any other foreign country, Putin announced an adoption freeze on all adoptions of Russian children by Americans, including those then already in progress. That was pretty cruel. As an aside, I might add that the Russian kids are blonde, blue-eyed, and very, very white. Putin wagered that those waiting American parents would be a vocal pressure group to sway the Obama administration. But the Magnitsky Act stayed in place. The woman present at the Don Jr. meeting, Natalia Veselnitskaya, has been a crusader and, when in the United States, a lobbyist for removal of the Magnitsky Act. So, once and for all, please, my colleagues in the press, let's be clear. For the Russians, adoption is the code word for lifting sanctions and ending U.S. pressure against Putin's invasions of neighboring countries and anti-human rights policies in Russia and abroad. That is what was discussed with Don Jr. and Manafort and Jared Kushner, and that's what was discussed between Trump and Putin at the G20. Here's an "are you freaking kidding me" item. Proposed legislation in Wisconsin would prohibit University of Wisconsin-Madison faculty from training resident physicians in abortions. While this is still another effort to reduce access to abortion, it's also leading many Wisconsinites to fear that such a law could drive resident physicians away from Wisconsin programs and contribute to a growing shortage of OB/GYNs in the state. And here's a news item to make your day. O.J. Simpson, who has been in prison for almost 9 years for armed robbery, has been granted parole and will be out by October. And somehow all I can think of is Nicole Brown Simpson's diary entry, quote, "Someday he'll kill me and get away with it," close quote. Someday this country has to outgrow its celebrity culture and replace its adoration of sports heroes and reality show exhibitionists with an appreciation for the framers of its Constitution. We have to take a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, but I'll be right back with a woman who is many things. It's coming right up.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. My first guest, Deeyah Khan, is so accomplished in so many ways it's hard to know where to begin. I won't spend too much time on the introduction because we're going to talk about the many roles that she plays, and she's terrific. And mad as hell and not going to take sexism and racism anymore. And here is Deeyah Khan. Deeyah, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Originally, I learned about you because of the magazine Sisterhood, Sister-Hood, that you began about women in the Muslim world. But the more I learned about you, the more I realized, my God, I don't know I don't know where to begin with this Renaissance woman. I mean, you're a fantastic filmmaker of documentaries, and in fact, you've won for your very first debut doc as director and producer for Banaz, A Love Story in 2012. It won both Peabody and Emmy Awards. Your second documentary was nominated for a BAFTA and other awards. You yourself are a United Nations ambassador for Goodwill Ambassador for Artistic Freedom and Creativity. Your musical background alone in world music and as a record producer of world music.
It's very odd, actually, hearing you say all this back. So I don't sleep a lot, really.
I was thinking, when the last time you had a chance to wash your hair probably was, I don't know, maybe 2010. Yeah, exactly. No time to do anything like that.
No,
well, let's start with your remarkable parents. I mean, your mother is an Afghan, your father is a Pakistani, and you were born in Norway, right?
That's right. And came from a very very liberal, very supportive, very sort of eccentric, radical family.
Sounds that way, yeah.
And both parents are Muslim, but my father was always so nervous about treating myself and my brother differently, that he ended up actually treating us differently. So he ended up treating me better as a daughter than he did his son, because he just did not want me to experience any sort of inequality. But, of course, you grow up and you walk into the world, and you realize that the world is very different.
And because you were so exquisitely trained in music and the things that you loved and so well educated, you got tremendous flack in Norway from other people in the Muslim community because, of course, girls are not supposed to do what you were doing, right?
That's right. It's the more sort of public attention that I started getting, and the more my music career, was evolving, the more negative reactions from within the Pakistani and the Muslim community started getting quite severe. I was sort of in the public eye from the age of about 7. So around 9, 10 years old, I remember after doing several TV performances and participating in various jazz festivals and world music festivals, we started getting sort of these delegations of men from within my parents' community who would come and they would sit my father down and they would say, look, music is an immoral and a very low profession, a profession that is typically associated with prostitutes in their eyes.
Yeah.
We don't allow our boys to participate in a profession like this. Why are you letting your girl do this? And this continued for quite a while, and my father would literally always show them the door. Then eventually around 13, 14 years old, people started coming to me. People not just yelling and shouting at me and lecturing me, just random men feeling entitled to come and tell me what I could and could not do and what was acceptable and proper behavior for a good girl to be participating in or not was extraordinary. But it went very quickly from people lecturing me, men lecturing me, to it turning actually violent as well. I used to have old men spit in my face, and then eventually I had people pull knives on me. I was attacked at my own concert. It got so bad that I eventually couldn't really walk outside. And this is Norway. It's one of the best places to be a woman, unless you're a woman who looks like me.
Yeah.
You know, so and that was a very difficult lesson for me to learn, is that yes, feminism, yes, equality, yes, all of these things that are so important and the sort of I've grown up on,
of course,
but somehow it doesn't really apply to me. And it got so bad that I actually couldn't go anywhere without a violent or an aggressive incident taking place. So I literally at the age of 17 bought a one-way ticket to London, and this was after my mother actually sat me down and said, look, do you understand that we can no longer protect you? And I said, yes, I do understand. And she said, you do understand that you're going to have to go somewhere to be safe? And I said, yes, I do.
And the music was sort of the springboard. But then you branched into film, and you branched into, human rights activism, always with a focus on female human rights, and the UN connection. How did all of that develop? And take me to Sister-Hood.
Well, it's from the time I left, one of the biggest lessons that I learned at that point was, I had to learn that I wasn't good enough in the eyes of other people. Doesn't matter how I was raised, doesn't matter what I believe, but in the eyes of, my parents' community, I wasn't good enough because I was a woman.
Right.
But I also learned that I wasn't good enough in the eyes of the rest of the population, even white people, basically, because I wasn't white.
Right.
And the reason or the way that I learned that is when I left, I had a very, very public exit from Norway. It was on the front pages of all the newspapers. It was not sort of a secretive escape. And the sort of biggest heartbreak for me at the time was that nobody said anything. Nobody stood up and actually said, hold on, this is not okay. And I always questioned, why is that?
Yeah, why?
Is it because I'm not, is it because I'm not Norwegian enough or white enough? Or, would people have reacted if I look different?
Of course. I mean, it's racism and sexism.
Exactly. It's hand in hand. And so learning sort of the connection between the two, and that the battles that we have to fight are on many fronts. And also the fact that in the West there are still, and unfortunately still today, so many people who don't completely understand what it's like to be a woman from a minority. And so from all those lessons at that very early age is where my sort of passion and obsession, I would say, for trying to help people understand what some of the dynamics are, but also not just help people understand, but ensure that people who are at the center of those experiences, that their voices get to come to the forefront, that we don't have experts who sit and define what it's like to be me, or what it's like to be a Somali woman, or like to be you.
Exactly.
But for us to be at the center of defining that ourselves.
That's right.
So every single thing that I've done since then, whether it's the human rights activism, whether it is any of the films that I've made, it's trying to build platforms or tell stories or create music or live events or any platform whatsoever where it's not about me.
Yes.
It's about a person's own perspective
Yes.
and story.
Yes.
And that the storyteller also is herself.
This was, of course, the motivation that drove me to first compile Sisterhood is Powerful in the 70s, and then Sisterhood is Global, and then Sisterhood is Forever. Because if one has the access, if one is fortunate enough to have even comparatively a tiny bit, some little place to stand in the patriarchy, then how can you best use that? And I've always thought you use that so that it gives voice to the people who have been kept more voiceless even than oneself, and those voices are what will make the difference.
And those voices are really the ones that are making the difference.
That's right.
A lot of the women that I'm working with, for example, even now, scattered across the Middle East.
Yes.
I mean, these are women who are on the front line of working against, for example, extremism and tremendous violence.
Yes.
And they're doing it fearlessly. They're doing it non-violently.
Yes.
And they're actually producing results.
Yes.
They are actually able to say, we have de-radicalized X amount of boys, or we have managed to take back our kids from various militias, or disarm even local violent groups. But whenever you look at any negotiations on the international platform, you see old men shaking hands, taking photos.
That's right.
And the actual peacemakers on the ground are nowhere to be found.
We do it differently. Whether it was in Ireland, we did, where women were the most effective final, arbiters, or whether it's taking place in the Middle East, or wherever it is in the world, women do go about it very differently.
That's right.
In Rwanda, for that matter,
Absolutely.
So Sisterhood is tell people how they can get a hold of Sisterhood.
So Sisterhood is an online magazine. It is sister-hood or -hood.com, and the magazine focuses primarily on women of Muslim heritage. And the reason for that is that as Muslim women, we have become sort of the political football of every side, political side of people within our own communities, of religious fundamentalists, of politicians, of our own fathers, and even the media. And now, the fashion industry has decided that they're going to sell us our own spirituality back to us.
Yes, I know. I noticed that.
Exactly. And again, I just had enough, and just thought we need to create something where women can speak for themselves, and where women define who they are, where women, unfiltered and uncensored, can speak about their experiences and their life, and the sort of material that we cover is, or that the women write about, is everything from the most intimate experiences of sort of everyday tiny battles of liberation in their own circumstances, and resistance in their own form, all the way up to feminist icons like Nawal Saadawi from Egypt, who is 85-year-old, incredible force.
She's an old friend of mine, and I love her dearly. And
I love her.
Still
she was
going
one of the first
strong.
people to write.
Whether it's in Saudi Arabia, where the women are literally, risking their lives and sometimes losing their lives to fight the guardianship laws, or to drive, or to have custody of children. I mean, basic human rights, my God.
Absolutely.
Or whether it is in Pakistan, or whether it is in Afghanistan. Literally, the Palestinian women, who were the first women who I met in the Arab or Muslim world and fell in love with years ago. I mean, it's a front line of feminism.
It really is.
And the women are really handling it with enormous creativity, and uniqueness, not pomposity, not a lot of posturing, just getting it done.
Just getting it done. And getting it done together wherever that's possible, and
Yes.
reaching across. I mean, it has become a global movement. I mean, it really is an international women's movement, and it needs to be.
Yes.
I mean, our opposition is global. You know, our opposition
that's right.
is absolutely interlinked. So our struggles also are.
That's correct.
You know, I think in the West, one of the things that drives me a little bit crazy is, you know, obviously you and your listeners understand a lot of these dynamics, but sort of the mainstream in our society in the West don't realize that these women exist.
I know.
They don't realize that there has been a tremendous women's movement throughout the decades within the Muslim context.
That's right.
And still very much so, you know, so we're always sort of cast and curated into either victims.
That's right.
Or into, just, our headscarves.
Yeah.
Or just being, or even being perpetrators, being jihadi brides. I mean, that's my sort of personal mission, is to try to destroy those stereotypes and those boxes that people are constantly erecting for us, and to really bring this history out to a large, as big of a population as we possibly can, and also to other young women who are also being told feminism is not yours. Feminism is something that is a Western construct, and it's not.
Of course,
it belongs to them.
That's right.
Yeah. So and to get these stories out, to get, a lot of the films, that I have worked on are very, very dark. They deal with some very ruthless topics, like violence, like murder, like discrimination, and very intense forms of abuse and oppression. But that's only part of what we need to do. We also need to show the solutions, and the solutions typically, as you were saying earlier too, are women who are fighting back.
Yes. What are you working on now, Deeyah?
Well, at the moment, working consistently on the magazine on sisterhood, but then I've also recently taken on a role with UNESCO, as you said earlier.
Yes.
Working around artistic freedom and creativity, and what that means is I tend to work on cases of persecution, censorship, and also imprisonment and violence that is increasing against artists and creative people.
Yes.
And within that, obviously, women artists.
Of course.
Even more so. I feel like we're living in the age of extremisms. So whether that's religious fundamentalists, or it's white supremacists and fascists, or whatever form it takes, that's what we're up against. And I think any resistance against them is viciously being destroyed. And as women are on the front lines of these movements to resist, so are also artists.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And so we're seeing our artists and our intellectuals and journalists, as you're also now experiencing in the U.S., being systematically dismantled or discredited, or in some cases, in some of the countries that I'm working in, also imprisoned or tortured or harassed and threatened. Right. So try to work on those human rights cases. And then on the film side of it, I haven't really said this to anyone before, but I will just very briefly mention it to you because I can't say too much about it. But I'm looking into the rising white supremacist movements across Europe and also in the U.S. I think the far right is getting very sophisticated and more complex in some ways.
Yes.
And I think they're trying to hijack a lot of issues that are legitimate issues, but obviously for their own ends. I think what's absolutely necessary at this point is, I think, solidarity, and I think sort of reaching out across borders now, I think, is going to be very, very important. And I hope that, especially your listeners in the U.S., it's been so inspiring to see the activism and the sort of fire in the hearts and eyes of Americans now because of Trump. And I really hope that we can sort of reach out to each other now. Because
I think
this
so.
It is sophisticated. It is global. Our religious fundamentalists are the absolute perfect bedfellows and equivalents of your fascists.
Oh, we call ours the American Taliban. I mean.
Exactly.
Oh my God!
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the exactly.
They all read from the same playbook, Deeyah, and they are all a part of, I think, a global patriarchal backlash against the fact that women are rising up as never before and saying enough of this. The planet itself cannot take this anymore, and we certainly won't.
And we absolutely must, I think, resist the nervous sort of impulses that sometimes happen, in the UK, and I've also noticed them in the US, which is just because we're fighting one enemy doesn't mean that we let the other one get a free pass.
Oh, no.
It's possible to fight on many fronts, and right now we really, really need to. The Muslim fascist fundamentalist guy is just as important to dismantle as Trump or any of his fascist.
Absolutely. And besides, women know how to multitask.
Exactly. So let's do it. So I think, global solidarity at this point is even more important than before.
You are an absolute treasure. Thank you for the extraordinary work that you do across genres, across disciplines. I hope you will come back and talk to us more.
I would love to.
And I hope people will tune into your TED Talk also, which is very important on what we don't know about Europe's Muslim kids and why we should care. It's a very moving TED Talk that can be accessed online, and they can find out more about Sister-Hood. And keep up the wonderful, wonderful work.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor and a privilege to get to speak with you and to get to speak with your audience. I'm very, very grateful, and I stand with you 100%. We're all in this together.
We have to take another brief break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I will be right back with the Surrealism Corner, and also with my next guest, who herself is just, she's a pillar of the women's movement. She's one of the great ones, Barbara Smith. That's coming right up, so don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again, ready to visit the Surrealism Corner. Sometimes you win one, and then they snatch it away. The right wing everywhere seems obsessed with walls. After years of negotiation with Jewish leaders, the Israeli government agreed a year and a half ago on a new egalitarian prayer space at the Western Wall in Jerusalem, a space where women and men could pray together and non-Orthodox rituals could be practiced. Now, the ultra-Orthodox parties opposed it vociferously, but American Jews, plus the Reform and conservative Jewish movements, plus Women of the Wall, a Jewish feminist group that's guested on this program, all seemed finally in coalition to have won. Except that now, yielding to pressure from his ultra-Orthodox right-wing coalition partners, Prime Minister Netanyahu has backtracked, deepening the divide between Israel and most Jews in North America who are affiliated with non-Orthodox Judaism. Another example of secular government surrender, way over in Bangladesh. More than 90% of its population is Muslim, and large rural areas are tilting toward extremely conservative Islamism. An Islamist group, Hefazat-e-Islam, demanded removal of a statue erected 7 months ago in the capital, Dhaka, saying that representations of the human form are forbidden in Islam. The statue of Justice, a blindfolded woman holding scales, stood in front of the Supreme Court. Last May, the authorities gave in to religious pressure and ordered the statue removed, while student groups demonstrated in the streets. Now, the compromise, moving the statue 300 yards away to where it cannot be viewed from the street, pleases nobody. So much for justice. So much for ethics, too. The plump, middle-aged, balding, fierce guy on whom we bestowed a superhero name, Ethics Man, Walter Schaub, Jr., director of the Office of Government Ethics, has resigned from the agency, making it clear he cannot work with the Trump regime for numerous obvious reasons. Oh, how we'll miss you, Walter. While we're on ethics, Politico reports that Trump's future business plans are hiding in plain sight. His organization has registered and renewed hundreds of domain names, from Mar-a-Lago-Vegas.com to TrumpTowerMoscow.com. There's also TrumpRussia.com and TrumpUkraine.com, both renewed in June 2016, while TrumpClothingVenezuela.com, TrumpHomeBathVenezuela.com, and TrumpBeddingVenezuela.com were all updated in October of 2016. Oh my God, poor Venezuela, as if it doesn't have enough problems. And then Ivanka. It's been noted during this past week of the White House pushing Hire American and Make It in America themes that none of the Trump products, daddies or daughters, are made in America. It's also worth recalling that this past spring, the Associated Press broke numerous stories about hideous working conditions, long hours, low pay, and verbal and physical abuse in Ivanka's Huajian shoe factories in Ganju, China. Then, a labor activist researching those conditions was detained by police, while 2 other researchers went missing and are presumed also to have been arrested. All 3 were investigators for China Labor Watch, a non-profit organization that aims to defend workers' rights. Their investigation has been closed down by police, and there's still no word on the fate of the arrested researchers. The White House defers questions to Ivanka's corporation, which replies that they'll look into it, and then goes brazenly silent. Meanwhile, in China, as Communist Party authorities assemble for this fall's Congress to decide which leaders will prevail, there's one certainty: none will be women. Not since the Communists came to power in 1949 has a woman sat on the highest body, which is the 7-member Politburo Standing Committee, now led by President Xi Jinping. Despite constitutional commitments to sex equality, a Chinese adage persists that a woman with power is like a hen crowing at dawn, predicting the collapse of both family and state. You better believe it. This is ensured by the mandatory requirement that women must retire 10 years earlier than men, on the assumption they are primary caregivers for grandchildren and elderly relatives. And that neatly removes them from contention just as their careers peak. Given the hen adage, you might call that a cluster cluck. But hey, gang, after 36 seasons and 12 different doctors, the title character of Doctor Who will finally regenerate in a female body. The BBC announced that Jodie Whittaker will play the first woman Doctor Who. Listen, it's good, it's great, I'm delighted. But, you know, that entire series is surreal. And personally, I'd rather win China. And now for my next guest. Barbara Smith, a dear friend and an American lesbian feminist socialist who has played a significant role in building and sustaining black feminism in the United States. She's been active as a critic, a teacher, a lecturer, an author, a scholar, and a publisher of black feminist thought. Her essays and reviews and articles and short stories and her literary criticism have appeared in a wide range of publications, from the New York Times Book Review to the Black Scholar to Ms. Magazine to The Guardian. Unhappy that works available by writers of color prominently featured men, at the suggestion of her friend, the late, great Audre Lorde, Barbara founded Kitchen Table Women of Color Press in 1980, and in collaboration with Cherry Moraga, Hattie Gossett, Susan Young, Audre Lorde, June Jordan, and Gloria Anzaldúa, she and her colleagues published what have become classics of feminist thought, in particular, feminist thought by women of color. Books like Homegirls, a Black Feminist Anthology, This Bridge Called My Back, Cuentos, Stories by Latinas, and I Am Your Sister, Black Women Organizing Across Sexualities. Her own article, Toward a Black Feminist Criticism, which was first published in Conditions magazine, is frequently cited as the breakthrough article in opening the field of black women's literature and black lesbian discussion. She's edited 3 major collections about African American women, and she's collected her own various writings in the anthology The Truth That Never Hurts, Writings on Race, Gender, and Freedom. That was in 1988. She's worked on virtually every subject you can think of, from the death penalty to, currently, Islamophobia. She was elected to the Albany, New York Common Council, the City Council, in 2005, representing Ward 4. She was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in 2005, and in 2014, she wrote, Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around, 40 Years of Movement Building with Barbara Smith. And it's with great pride that I can present her return to this program, the great Barbara Smith.
Barbara Smith. Barbara, dear old friend, welcome back to the program.
Hello, Robin. How are you?
I'm alive.
It beats the alternative.
Yeah, it definitely beats the alternative. You are one of my favorite in the entire solar system, long distance runners, and as I've often called you, a one woman movement incarnate. Name the issue, and you've been there and are there and better be there in the future. I know you're working on, especially on Islamophobia now. I know you never stop working against sexism and racism. I think that the last time you were with us on the program was when Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around, that terrific book, 40 Years of Movement Building with Barbara Smith, was published in 2014?
Yes, late 2014.
Yeah, I think that's when you last were with us. And you've been on the City Council of Albany. In electoral politics, in grassroots politics, there she is again. And in literature, of course, with your history as a writer and with Kitchen Table Women of Color Press. So what's up now, Barbara? Anything to protest against?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just been so placid and calm lately, don't you think? I mean, There's so little for us to have to worry about or
boring,
think of. Every America's great again, so everything's fine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm so relieved. I know you are,
right, what a relief.
Yeah.
Well, as you mentioned, I am very involved with our local organization, Capital District Coalition Against Islamophobia, and if people want to find it online, they can go to stopislamophobia.org and find us. That's been really important work, and one of the things that I let people know about it is that we started that organization in late 2015. So it was before the most recent presidential election that we saw a need to have an organization that could speak out in support of our Muslim neighbors and other people who are under attack.
Right.
The Paris attacks had happened late that year, and then shortly after, the terrorist attacks in San Bernardino had happened here in our country. So that's when we started the coalition. And because we were an ongoing organization already established, when the election happened last November, we were ready to go, and we actually organized 2 very large and successful rallies and marches here in Albany, one on November 19th, which was right after the election, and then one on December 3rd with the theme of No KKK Presidency, because we had heard that the Ku Klux Klan was going to have a victory parade in North Carolina, and we wanted to counter that. So we've been busy.
Yes, well, and you're notoriously lazy, Barbara. You know, you're lying around your swimming pool and just going ho-hum.
Yes, and don't forget the bonbons, please.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Eating the bonbons.
The bonbons,
don't forget that.
which is something that a radical African American lesbian feminist one woman movement does. She just lies there and pops bonbons in her mouth. So, are you writing anything now? This is the writer part of me wanting you to write something more.
Well, I was involved with the international women's strike that happened on March the 8th. I was a part of the U.S. National Planning Group for that, and as a result of that, I did write an article that appeared on the Huffington Post about why I was involved with the strike and why I thought it was really important.
Yeah.
I am co-editing with wonderful sisters Barbara Ransby, who is the distinguished historian out at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and an old friend and Combahee Collective member, River Collective member, Margot Okazawa Ray, who is based on the West Coast and is a professor emeritus. She was at San Francisco State. We are co-editing an issue of Souls, which is a journal that was started by Manning Marable, and that Barbara Ransby has taken on after his really sad and untimely death.
Yeah.
So this issue of Souls that will come out, I assume, sometime. I don't know if it will be later this year or early next year, focuses on the legacy of Combahee. So that's something that I'm involved in.
That's wonderful.
That's writer-related activities, not necessarily writing myself.
Yeah, well, you can squeak. I'll let you squeak by on that one, but I like to hear your voice always. Talk for a minute about, I know that you recently, Kim Crenshaw, the founder of African American Policy Forum, told me that they were unfortunately, I was out of town, or I would have been there. That they were giving you a special award on the 20th anniversary gala of AAPF.
Of their founding, yes.
Yes. Talk about that for a minute.
That was really a wonderful night for me. That was June the 10th, less than 2 weeks ago, and I received the Harriet Tubman Lifetime Achievement Award from the African American Policy Forum. So it was a lot of fun. Movie stars were involved. I told people, I told them about the other people who were being honored, who were all distinguished, and they were Eve Ensler, of the Vagina Monologue fame, Congress member Keith Ellison, and Joy Reid. I'm a fangirl.
She's wonderful.
I'm a fangirl for Joy Reid. So those were the other people who were being honored. I said all the famous people and me.
Oh, well, just a minute here. Hang on there for just a second. As far as I'm concerned, you're the star of the group. Joy is wonderful, though. In fact, the Women's Media Center has given her an award, and one year and another year she hosted our gala, and she is
wonderful.
She is just the best. She is so funny and incredibly smart, and a take no prisoners approach, and a great journalist. So I'm glad she was.
She is.
Yeah.
One of the things I said to her, I was so excited to meet her, and I have been seeing her on the air actually since the Trayvon Martin murder.
Yes.
That's when I first saw her. She was doing the on-the-scene coverage in Florida.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I told her is that it was just so wonderful to see her on the air, because she is reporting current events, and don't we have some current events these days? She's reporting them from a black woman's perspective.
Yes.
And I said, and of course, a lot of people don't realize that there is a black woman's perspective on the news. But of course, she said, we know. She had no problems grasping what she's actually doing, and as I described it, which is a black woman's perspective.
That's right.
On the news and what's happening.
She also has absolutely no compunction when somebody tries to interrupt her, like Chris Matthews, who interrupts people all the time. She just rides right over him. And you actually hear somebody asking the question that you would ask yourself. It is so refreshing.
Indeed.
Bless her heart.
Indeed.
But
we are in perilous times.
Yes,
we need that.
Yes, we do. I wanted to, we've only got a limited amount of time here, but I wanted you to just
flow some wisdom out, given all your years of activism, all your long distance running, the fact that you're still going. I'm sorry, lifetime achievement, more to do. And what any special thoughts that you have about the activism today, the resistance, what we're doing that we should be doing, what we're not doing that we ought to be doing, any of the extraordinary tactical, strategic, and visionary wisdom that you have. Lay it on us.
Well, I'm not sure I can actually fulfill that request.
Yeah, I set you up really bad.
It's a tall order, and this is an incredibly complex and, as I said, perilous time. Yeah. It's a time that has implications, what's going on in the United States with our fractured system of government and our democracy in jeopardy. It has impact upon the entire globe. So pulling out of the Paris climate agreement is like, really?
Yeah.
It's so draconian. The fact that they plan and wish to pass the health Health Act in secret. Nobody knows what it is, and it's 1/6 of the nation's economy. This is just. It's egregious. It's beyond imagining.
Yeah.
Of course, activism and organizing is always the answer, particularly of the grassroots variety. Change gets made, as far as I'm concerned, from the bottom up, not from the top down.
Right.
We put pressure on the establishment and upon the power structure, and sometimes, and in fact, a few times in my life, we have been able to make that power structure take notice and move and change. Not because they have wonderful values or actually care about the humanity of people who are suffering and who are oppressed, but because we create a situation that destabilizes their agendas, and then they have to pay attention. The civil rights movement, to me, is a perfect example of what I just described. So just keep on organizing, speaking truth to power. One of the things we need to consider, too, is that all of the problems that we're facing would have been problems still, even if the election outcome had been different in November. So that means that our work is cut out for us, and we have a lot to do.
That's right. The issues remain the same. It's just they've been made more dramatic and shocking in this current situation.
That's correct.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. I can't begin to thank you for all the years past and all the years yet to come. You're not.
Thank you so much, Robin.
You're not off the hook. I love you dearly and admire you hugely. Always have, always will. Thank you. Congratulations on your Lifetime Achievement Award from AAPF. And most of all, congratulations on your lifetime. And may it last many, many years more, because we need you. And
thank you so much. Same to you, Robin, and from your lips.
Thanks for being with us today, Barbara.
Thanks a lot.
And it is now time for one last break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I will be back in a few seconds with some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back again to some fighting words. This year, I feel guilty daring to go on vacation for a few weeks. I realize that that's egotistical, as if without this program reaching you, progressive activism, including my own, will cease. So I remind myself that I and you can continue making phone calls and sending letters and emails and faxes to Congress from anywhere, and that there are senatorial and congressional offices scattered across all 50 states just waiting to be sat in. We'll need to stay vigilant. But when I step back to survey where we currently are, and you know I'm no Pollyanna, we the people are making a difference. And here are some heartening facts. Facts, remember them? That we can focus on. Item. Our activism has had a huge impact on issues all the way from stalling and likely defeating attempts to kill the ACA, Obamacare, down to smaller issues like reversing the denial of visas for the teenage Afghan girl engineers trying to come to the U.S. for a robotics competition. It's been local pressure on congressional reps and senators who in turn push back against their leadership and against Trump that's accomplished this. And that's going to only increase the closer we get to elections next year. Item: the lawyers who helped Obama's White House craft and adhere to strict rules of conduct for a record 8 years without a scandal have formed a new group, United to Protect Democracy, to drill into issues that are not hitting headlines, like intervention in and intimidation of regulatory agencies by West Wing staff. And they're ready for major battles, too. Trump's attack on the judge who halted his immigration ban already has them planning for what might happen if the White House directly defies a judicial ruling, and what they'd need to do in the potential constitutional crisis that would follow. Ian Bassin, who's leading the group, says, quote, "We need an organization specifically and holistically focused on that worst-case scenario." Close quote. Now that's alarming, but also sure as hell comforting that somebody's on the case. Item: Trump's approval polls keep dropping. The Guardian, which has been quietly interviewing Trump supporters in Pennsylvania over the past months, quotes one saying, "That's a hard thing for us humans to admit, that somebody took us over the barrel, actually fooled us that well. They were promised bread and circuses, but they only got the circus." Item: don't forget that Nixon was re-elected a few months after the break-in to the DNC offices was revealed, with 67% approval ratings at his second inauguration. It wasn't until the Senate Watergate hearings were televised day after day that the nation realized this was not just politics as usual. From July to September 1973, the percentage of people saying Watergate received too much media attention jumped up from 40 to 50% in Harris polling, and insistence that the press is just after Nixon jumped up from 17 to 24%. After July 1973, when he refused to turn over to the Senate taped conversations from the Oval Office, his approval rating was never again above 38%, which is higher than where Trump's is today, and it was 24% by the time Nixon resigned in 1974 to avoid impeachment. Item: the conservative press is getting nervous, with some of their icons raging. Columnist and commentator Charles Krauthammer wrote about the Don Jr. meeting, quote, "The Russia scandal has entered a new phase and there's no going back. The evidence is now shown. This is not hearsay, not fake news, not unsourced leaks. Even if nothing else is found, the evidence is damning." Close quote. The Wall Street Journal itself is pivoting, with a scathing July 17th editorial calling Don Jr. a dunce, and adding, quote, "They have handed their opponents another of the swords that by now could arm a Roman legion. Everything that is potentially damaging to the Trumps will come out one way or another." Close quote. Now that editorial could never have been run without the express knowledge and permission of the journal's owner, Rupert Murdoch himself, which in turn means that eventually he will order even his Fox News to desert the sinking ship. There will come a day, I promise you, I affirm to you, I swear it to you, there will come a day when this republic, now slowly blinking awake, will sit up, groggy, aching all over, with a killer headache, a touch of vertigo, and roiling nausea, will sit on the side of its metaphorical bed with its allegorical head in its symbolic hands, and mutter, "What in hell just happened?" Our nation will suffer overlapping symptoms, part hangover, part recovering Stockholm Syndrome, part PTSD survivor. But it will happen once the already in free-fall regime of Donald Trump will be fully exposed. So I'm going to spend some days watching blue jays and cardinals in the garden, writing, reading, cooking, sleeping, doing simple, blessed, daily catch-up routines, and reminding myself how that's crucial, because while fighting against such death politics, we do not dare forget the life politics we're fighting for. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter, and don't forget to tag us at WMC Live, and remember to use the hashtag Fighting Words. And that's it for today, and for us until September 10th. We're going on summer hiatus, and I'm going to try to finish a new book. But if something really major breaks, I just might activate this program as a special report. So keep an eye on WMCLive.com, where you can find the show plus the archive of all our previous episodes, so you can catch up on any you missed. You can also catch up, stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast worldwide on iTunes, as well as find a WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter, too. I plan to suspend my blog as well during the show's hiatus, though I'm not sure I'll be able to resist that. So keep an eye out for it at my own website, robinmorgan.net. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton, and our founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. Heartfelt thanks to them and to the staff of this program for their excellence and professionalism in making every detail of the show superior. Most of all, thank you for being with us, for the support and inspiration you send us through social media and at my website. I am Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thanks again for being with us. While we're away, remember to catch up on episodes you might have missed. And don't forget to join us the week after Labor Day, September 10th, right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.